In an exclusive interview, the Prime Minister of Luxembourg tells us about his role building bridges between the EU and China, and the Director General of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons will be telling me his opinions on how to rid this planet of the scourge of chemical weapons. Welcome to The Point, live from Beijing. I'm Li Xin. A European country with one of the smallest populations that has 4 official languages, but a country with one of the world's highest per capita GDP. There are quite a number of things that may spring to mind when we talk about the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg. On Wednesday, I had the opportunity to conduct an exclusive interview with the Luxembourgeois Prime Minister Xavier Bettel before he wrapped up a 4-day visit to China. He shared with me some other perspectives about his country as well as its trade and cultural ties with China. I started off by asking him about the role of Luxembourg in China-EU cooperation.
First thing you said, the European Parliament, but we have also the Court of Justice, the European Bank of Investment, we have the Court of Auditors, so we are really a European capital. And we are open to others. This is the secret of my country, to know that being just closed on yourself is not a secret, so that's the reason why also we are founder member of the European Union, and the openness is the strength of our country. So we are partners. If I see, for example, the agreement we have with SCA from the region of Henan and the city of Zhengzhou, where we had planned four flights a week, we are now 15 flights a week. I see that we had discussions also with the responsible of the region about the cities between Europe and Asia. So we strongly believe that we are partners already for the flights, but also for the rail tomorrow, and that presidents wish to intensify really this Silk Road project is something where Luxembourg is a real partner.
Now, in terms of bilateral trade, the data has been interesting. For instance, in 2009, the number was 3 billion between China and Luxembourg. However, the next year there was a big fluctuation, dropping 2/3. The figure for 2016 was 1.5 billion US dollars. However, that was also 40% lower than the previous year. What are the possible reasons behind this decline, and what can be done to stabilize that number?
If I look the figures I have, and I consider, for example, Hong Kong also in the figures, I arrived to a figure of 3.7 billions, so which is a huge figure. We have the question of the goods, which I think there is a huge potential to continue, and also on the services where we have this big figure of 3.7 billions. The fact is, we have already 6 important Chinese banks in Luxembourg with their presence, but there is still more potential to work on. We have, for example, this joint venture now together, where we decide to create a company together with NCA and Cargolux about these flights. This company now located in Zhengzhou, and will do flights also between Europe and China. And I think we should intensify more of these relations. My country is a country where you know that we have the capacity to do things, we have the knowledge to do things, but we have also the legislation which is compliant. It's not banks and institutions doesn't come to Luxembourg because they know that there are no rules. No, it's located in Central Europe. It's a question of trust, stability, predictability, and also compliancy. And I think that all these rules makes why it's so important to work together on this side. And as I told you, more presence about the financial institutes, and yesterday we had finances, tomorrow we'll have fintech. So I have also meetings with people in activities, in the fintech activities here in China, the cooperation on the flight, but tomorrow maybe also on the rail. So this is how we could intensify relations between those.
Now, in recent years, the financial cooperation, as you mentioned, between the two countries have been developing at a steady pace. However, it is also, Luxembourg is also one of the gates for Chinese goods to enter into Europe. How do you look at the future prospects for finance and for air cargo cooperation between the two sides?
I think we started something together. It's not, for example, the cargo history was a small history. If I check now, we started in Zhengzhou 4 flights a week. We are now over 15 flights a week. And if I look the assembled, because we just not only fly to Zhengzhou, if I look all the flights together, it's a huge amount of flights that we have. But this is a permanent developing situation. And if I take the example, for example, of the province of Henan. Province of Henan, if you look now, it's really a techie region. They produce the iPhones. For a lot of components of the iPhone. So these are markets where yesterday there were no jobs in this field, and today they have thousands of jobs. And so to work with a province where there is an economic booming all the time makes a growth of the exchange between Europe and China. And it's a gateway in both sides. Mm-hmm. It's one in one side and the other side. And what I really would love to have, because it's nice to travel goods, but travel people would be great too. And so for me it would be great, and we did also yesterday and the last days we signed agreements about how we can ease the situation for people who wants to travel. So there will be facilities also in Zhengzhou to make visas to go to Luxembourg, and but we need a plane. We can't put people in the cargo and tell them welcome to Luxembourg or welcome to Zhengzhou. So this is something we spoke also with the responsible of the province of Zhengzhou, and I hope that we will have also success. And I promise to them that the first flight I will be participating.
Wow. But explain to us why the province of Zhengzhou. What have you seen in that province that you think can work together with Luxembourg? You know,
Luxembourg was always able to find, I wouldn't say a niche, because this would be maybe not understandable, but everybody wants to go to Shanghai. Everybody wants to go to Beijing. But China is not only Shanghai and Beijing. No. With a region of Henan where there are over 100 million inhabitants. And we are so proud that we find a partnership with the province of Henan, and not also, we're working with Shanghai and with Beijing, but we have this relation where very often other countries don't look at them. And we are proud to look at them. We are proud for the partnership, for the friendship, for the relation we built the last 4 years with the province of Henan, and we see that it is a respectful collaboration that we have. So I'm very proud that we work now with this region, which is economic booming. And when I see the figures, I told you 4 flights were scheduled. We have 15 flights a day. I think we did the right choice, and they did the right choice too.
Wow. In terms of cultural connectivity, Henan is a very interesting case in point. I mean, we have also been hearing about upgrading the cultural and educational links between China and Luxembourg. So what is the Chinese cultural symbol in the eyes of Luxembourgers, and what is Luxembourger cultural symbol in terms of the Chinese, and how do you connect these two?
Bring people together is one of my biggest wish always, to understand each other. And to understand each other, I think one of the best ways also to learn a language. So we have now, starting this year, the possibility for students to learn Chinese in school. So this is the first important step, I think, in the direction of bringing people together and having these cultural links put together. This is the first thing. The second thing is we will have with the city of Zhengzhou and the province of Henan an exhibition now, an exchange exhibition. So we will have arts from Luxembourg being exposed, and craft, and really important things that we will expose in Zhengzhou. And we will have important things from the museum of the province of Henan coming to Luxembourg. So bringing people together. I have to tell you that in Luxembourg the Chinese community is very, very active. When you celebrate New Year's Eve, I think I have 2 weeks of celebrations where I celebrate with all my Chinese friends, and I like the traditions, I like the culture, and your country has an important role, even more now than ever. We have decisions from one country to stop the COP21 work. We need leadership, and we need positive leadership also for the next generation. And I think that China has a big, big role to have that. And the discussions I had with Prime Minister Li Keqiang really gave me this feeling that you know the responsibility you have, not only for the region, but also for the globe. Mm-hmm. And the friendship and the respect between my country and your country is something which is really, really good. And I really hope to continue on that relation. And I invited Prime Minister Li Keqiang to come to Luxembourg, and he said yes, so now we have to find...
Yeah, you talk about leadership is a very interesting subject. Right now we are looking for who are leading the world, or what kind of leadership do we need? And especially when we talk about the situation concerning Brexit, or the talk of European Union coming into, and Luxembourg is one of the founding members of the European Union, and you're also a very active member of the NATO. How do you look at the kind of role that countries need to play in order to shoulder the responsibility of leading, the international community into the 21st century?
The most important thing in my eyes is not who is the leader. I don't want to have a leaders against another leader on the world level. What we need is to take common decisions. For environmental questions, which is really important if we want to leave a world where the next generation will be able to live and to have a quality of life too, we need to stick to the things we said. And what I told you before, when President Trump said, I will stop now COP21, I was very happy that other countries didn't follow him. China, imagine China, France, Russia saying, if they're doing this, we will do the same. This would have been then a domino effect. And by telling no, we took promises in Paris. It's not the easiest one for our economy, but it's the important one for the future of our country, and to stick to this. This is for me leadership. Not only to be a leader and to please people who will vote for me today, but also to be able to take decisions where I know that people who have no voting rights yet, because they are children, babies, or maybe not even born yet, will have the capacity to have a normal life, because we were able to preserve what they need to have a normal life. What is for me leadership? To be able to take decisions, even if they are not the popularist one for the moment, but the most important one for our future.
You're a very important leader of the country Luxembourg. How do you see Luxembourg's role in regional and international affairs in this era when we're looking for the right leadership?
Luxembourg was always able to build bridges. We were between Germany and France. So two big neighbors, and we speak both languages. So that makes it easier, even sometimes if my colleagues are not able to understand each other, to translate, for example. But bridge maker was always the quality of the country of Luxembourg, and being open to the others. My country was not always the rich country it is today. My country was a poor country. And then we had steel, and we discovered steel. Then we were always able to think about what will be tomorrow, the next big thing. That's what I call leadership. Not only, you should be proud about your history, you should be proud about what you are able to do, but you should be even more happy to know that you will be able to prepare your country for the next big challenge. That's what I call leadership. And my country was always the one who was able, between big countries, between different cultures, between different religions, being able to speak with the one and with the other. I'm the Luxembourgish Prime Minister. I have the opportunity to meet this week the Prime Minister and the President of China. Last week I was with the President of Russia together. Next week I have a meeting with the President of France or with German Chancellor. It's not a question of where you live or how big or how. It's human values, also being able to discuss, being honest, and being sometimes matchmaker. For example, the questions of commerce and the discussions about the status of economy market for China. What is important for us is that we are able to speak together and stop speaking about each other. And this is something I always did in politics. When I visited President Putin, I'm always too long with my answers, I'm so sorry, but this is typical. So President Putin, everybody was speaking about press, but no one was speaking to him. I prefer to speak to him, being honest, watching the eyes, and have an exchange in TV stations, telling what I think about him, and he will answer me in his national news what he thinks about me. This is not the way I want to do politics.
Is that the diplomatic strategy of Luxembourg as a country as well?
It's one of our strengths, yes.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister Bettel.
Thank you to you.
Over the years, more than 60 chemical attacks have been reported in Syria and Iraq, killing or injuring thousands of civilians. In April, Syria again witnessed one of the worst chemical attacks in the country, sparking another international outcry. Why are such weapons still being used, and what global efforts have been made, and what more needs to be done to completely eradicate chemical weapons? Joining me today in the studio is Mr. Ahmed Üzümcü, Director General of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons Weapons, or OPCW, the organization that won the 2013 Nobel Peace Prize. Welcome to the studio, Ambassador Xavier. Now, as I mentioned, just last April, there was a horrendous attack involving sarin gas in Han Sheikhoun area in southern Idlib. The OPCW set up a fact-finding mission to investigate. Could you update us on the latest, please?
Certainly. After this incident was reported, we immediately deployed a team to a neighboring country to investigate this incident, this allegation of use of chemical weapons. And the team was in contact with the victims. They collected some samples. They attended some autopsies. And based on all, the results of these analyses, we found that sarin was indeed used. Sarin is a nerve agent, which is very little. And since then, we have been, in fact, collecting information from different sources and interviewing witnesses and victims. So a report is going to be prepared based on this investigation, and we will submit it to the consideration of states parties as well as to the UN Security Council.
The important question here everybody wants to know is, are we going to find out who did it?
The mandate of the OPCW fact-finding mission is limited to determine whether a chemical weapon is used or not. And after that, there is a joint investigative mechanism, OPCW-UN, which is established by the UN Security Council, which will take over and will try to identify the perpetrators of those attacks.
Given the past experience, how long do you think that's going to take? And is there any chance, any possibility that we will find out in the end?
I think the FFM report will be ready within the next 2 weeks. And of course, I cannot foresee how long it will take to prepare the report of the joint investigative mechanism. And I'm hopeful that the perpetrators will be identified. I believe that those who are responsible of such attacks must be held accountable, and they need to be punished.
There are also investigations on a series of chlorine attacks which happened in 2014 and 2015. We see from Reuters' report earlier this year, for instance, there was a list allegedly that was produced where for the first time Syrian President Bashar al-Assad was named to be behind the attack, but we haven't heard anything since then. Any latest on that front?
Actually, the FFM was established based on such allegations of use of chlorine in Syria, in different parts of Syria. And we had investigated those allegations, submitted our reports, and it was determined with a high degree of confidence that chlorine was used as a weapon. Chemical substance which is used on a daily basis by many, but if it is used as a weapon to kill people, to harm people, of course it's considered as a chemical weapon. And after these reports, the joint investigative mechanism, in fact, identified the involvement of Syrian armed forces in 3 cases, and also involvement of the ISIS in the case of use of sulfur mustard. But the issue is still pending, and there was no follow-up. There were some actions taken by the United States and the European Union or individual states.
Why are there no follow-up actions?
There was, in fact, no consensus at the UN Security Council. We should decide upon those reports. And consultations which were held didn't produce any consensus. So a resolution could not be adopted.
Since you mentioned it, indeed, we have seen some serious divisions on the UN Security Council members, for instance, concerning the latest UN resolution requesting the Syrian government to give free access to investigators. Western countries and Russia and China as well had different opinions. Western countries voted for it, Russia vetoed it, and China supported the ban on use of chemical weapon, but China was not satisfied with some clause which did not gain consensus from all the members. How big is the division on political opinions hindering your agency's work?
I think on the principle of denouncing the use of chemical weapons, there is a consensus. All states parties in the international community in general does agree that the chemical weapons should not be used under any circumstances by anyone. However, on this, a few incidents in Syria, some states thought that the investigations, in fact, were not properly conducted. The procedures were not properly followed, and the methods were, the proper methods were not applied. So they rejected the results of those investigations. So that's the major problem that we faced. The OPCW, of course, is a technical organization. We are producing our reports on technical findings and science-based findings, and our experts are technical, staff. So we'll continue to do our job from a technical perspective and impartially.
There are also sources which say there are chemical weapons in the hands of rebels in Syria, and also we know that the Islamic State reportedly has been using chemical weapons to kill innocent people and is securing its chemical arsenal to hold on to its diminishing territory. What can the international community do to eliminate and to control such weapons in the hands of rebels and terrorists? Mm-hmm.
It's extremely worrying that the ISIS, in fact, was able to produce sulfur mustard and use it both in Iraq and in Syria. This was determined by an independent investigation. This shows that these terrorists are capable of producing it, although it's a low-quality substance that they did. Still, it's lethal, it can kill people, and we are worried that they may use this in their countries of origin if they go back to there. And this is a major concern shared by all state parties at the moment. And we don't have an immediate solution. I think the international community should cooperate further to prevent such attacks to occur.
What about the importance of due procedure? I mean, you are a scientific-based organization, technical organization, but there are countries which are using your findings to declare that they already found the culprit of the chemical attacks and they are launching unilateral attacks. How do you look at this?
I'm not able to comment on, in fact, unilateral actions that might be taken by individual states parties. However, I think the international community should stand in unison against the use of such inhumane weapons, which are forbidden by a convention established, in fact, 20 years ago. And the number of states parties is 192, with the exception of 4 countries. In fact, we cover 98% of the population in the world. And I believe that the actions, the necessary measures need to be taken, and the international norm, which is established, must be upheld by the whole international community. So I think that those who are responsible, as I said earlier, must be prosecuted and punished.
Let's wait for the results of the investigation as well. Let's come to your visit to China this time. Now, the destruction of abandoned chemical weapons is one of the most important tasks for your agency, and I understand you visited northeast China, where there are a lot of these abandoned weapons from the Japanese invaders at the end of World War II. What is the situation there, and what can your agency do to help eliminate these weapons?
There is quite a large stock in Harbeling in Jilin province that I visited together with 15 ambassadors from the Hague. And the progress has been quite encouraging, I must say. I was there 4 years ago. Now parts of the stocks were destroyed already. The real destruction operation will start next year. We are still at the test phase. And the Japanese experts and Chinese experts are working together on the site. The cooperation is very good, and which I also welcomed. And I think in the years to come, this stocks will be destroyed in total. This is a huge facility built, which was built, in fact, which took several years to build, and the operation is very demanding, and all munitions need to be handled one by one. As the OPCW, we are facilitating this process. Our inspectors verify the destruction activities. And there are some tripartite consultations between China, OPCW, and Japanese experts, which are being held periodically. As the OPCW will continue to contribute for the smooth conduct of this operation.
Now, the Chemical Weapons Convention came into effect in 1997 and China joined from the very first day. How would you evaluate China's role in helping eliminate chemical weapons so far?
China has been an outstanding supporter of the OPCW and the implementation of the convention, and it contributed in several respects. And China hosts a very large chemical industry. In fact, some of them are subject to our verification, and every 2 weeks there is an inspection which is going on in one chemical industrial plant in China. And China received about 400 inspections over the past 20 years, and all of them went very smoothly without any problem, which I welcome. And also it contributes to the better implementation of the convention by other states parties by hosting capacity building activities, by improving the capabilities of other states parties. There are 2 laboratories in China which are also part of our network of designated laboratories. In view of all this, and also I should mention that China contributed to the Syria mission for the elimination of its chemical weapons program in 2013. In view of all this, I believe that this is an exemplary state party, and I really appreciate that.
I have 30 seconds, really. You are going to continue cooperation with China and China vice versa. What will be the priority, very briefly?
I think in the years to come, major concern will be the threat of chemical terrorism. And as I said, we need more cooperation. China could play a leading role in this domain. And I would really encourage to contribute to these discussions and to the promotion of peaceful use of chemistry as it has done so far.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed Uzumci, Director General of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. And you have been watching The Point. And as usual, here is my last point. Chemical weapons are probably some of the worst ever invented by mankind. They inflict horrible pain, and often they're impossible to detect until it is too late. We all remember chemical atrocities inflicted in places such as China, Vietnam, Iraq, and Syria. And it should be absolutely necessary for the world to be rid itself of these weapons of mass destruction. However, with the world so divided, with so many countries in chaos, this task is often all but impossible. But that shouldn't prevent us from keep trying. To those who are working tirelessly to find solutions, we need to give credit. Because of them, we have actually come a long way in making the world a safer place. That's all for this edition of The Point with me, Lu Xian. As always, follow me on Twitter or visit our Facebook page using the handle The Point with LX. Download the application called CGTN Live to watch our show on your mobile devices, or go to YouTube and look for CGTN The Point. Thanks for watching. You got the point.